Okay, here we go. So that's now recording. Yeah, so um, like I said in the initial invite, the goal here is to do a little bit of an exploratory call about the current state of Drupal Forge, how it works, the kind of needs for Starshot and a Drupal CMS demo and all these sorts of things. And I think we'll have a little bit of a wide-ranging set of topics in terms of we'll take a look at what it can do right now. I'd love to hear a little bit more about um, the sort of business structure and nonprofit format that y'all have come up with. And then I suspect Adam might have some technical questions about how the demo is currently working and things like that. And we can sort of go from there.
I'm actually curious to find out what it
It's
does.
very difficult to hear you, Adam.
Oh, sorry. Maybe it's my mic. Let me just turn that up.
Is it
How
just
about
me?
now?
Is it everyone?
Oh, that's much better. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was my mic volume. It was very low.
Okay. All right. Good. Can we just go around and do a quick 30-second intro?
Oh, good call. So yeah, I'll go ahead and start first. You all know me, but obviously Tim Lennon at the DA, hestenet on Drupal.org, and yeah, helping coordinate some of the stuff from the Drupal Association point of view. So
I'm Salim Lakhani. I go by Sal or Sam, uh, depending on who you talk to. I head up Dev Panel, and now I'm also involved in Drupal Forge. It's set up as a nonprofit, and I manage the technology side of the business. So that's it, Darren.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm Darren Oh. I've been using Drupal since 2005, so I really love Drupal and the Drupal community. I've seen a lot of projects. I've been a maintainer of projects and seen how hard it is to keep them going sustainably. And I really want the Drupal project to be self-sustaining. So that's what motivated me to start putting this Drupal Forge project together. Also, I'm really hoping that combined with Drupal CMS, we'll have a better onboarding for junior developers to get in at the ground level with be able to do their own little business and move up to being to the point where they could get hired by bigger companies. So right now I'm working for Cognizant on the Estee Lauder sites, and this is something I do in my free time.
Luke.
Okay, I'm Luke McCormick. I'm in California. I have been doing more and more work with various committees within the Drupal world. I'm on a Starshot promotional committee. I'm part of the first meeting today for the DrupalCon Atlanta marketing committee, and I was on the DrupalCon Portland marketing committee, and I like to do stuff like that. I also do programming things, but I'll cut the intro now.
Sounds good. Pam, let's do you, and then Adam.
I'm Pam. I am the product owner of Starshot. And in my day job, I am the CTO of a Drupal services agency in Australia.
Pam, what time is it over there? It looks extra bright for being on the other side of the world.
It's 8 a.m.
Oh, okay.
I'm already in the future.
Yep, good
Nice.
one. And Adam.
Yeah, I am Adam. I'm sorry if there's any lag. I'm at my parents' place in rural Canada. They're not even on grid, so internet here is a little sketchy. And
You're
I
doing
do all
well.
kinds. Oh, great. Okay,
You're
well, there
doing
you
well
go.
for off-grid, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I do all kinds of shit. And I'm currently committing all kinds of things to Starshot, to Drupal CMS, working closely with Pam and Tim Plunkett and the track leads. And I've done a bunch of other things, but I won't get into that. Yeah, that's everything. That's all I got.
Cool. Okay. Well, let me kick things off with I don't know if this is the best place to start, but by taking a look at drupalforge.org itself and what we've got here, and I'll talk through it a little bit, and y'all who've built it out can feel free to interrupt me and add things. But my understanding, and we talked a little bit about this at Bad Camp recently, and obviously have done so in other places like the Slack and other things, is that Drupal Forge is built on top of sort of dev panel as a backend technology. The way it works is that you have these sets of, I'm trying to remember whether you call them profiles or whatever you call them. You have these
Templates.
sets, sorry?
Templates.
Templates. Yes, you have these sets of templates that you can configure and that you have had issues in the Drupal Forge issue queue for people wanting to create new ones that sort of deploy a specific defined type of environment, like deploying into Umami, deploying Civi, deploying Backdrop, deploying Drupal CMS, deploying Drupal 11, et cetera, et cetera. What happens on the kind of back end here, this spins up a remotely hosted test environment along with the Cloud IDE environment that DevPanel provides, which is like VS Code in the browser, some things like that, and creates a sort of time-bound, hey, this will exist for 6 hours, and if you've signed in or something, you can extend it, et cetera, et cetera. And if I'm correct, your sort of proposal or sort of pitch for this is, hey, that's an awesome way for people to get in and create an easy one-click spin up, like express trial of a particular flavor of Drupal, in this case, Drupal CMS, but potentially for recipe-based flavors that other people, like as Darren was referring to, like a freelancer just getting started could add their profile on Drupal Forge of their flavor of things that they want to do, maybe built on top of CMS, maybe their own thing entirely. People could spin things up, and if they choose to keep them, then the goal is for them to be portable to a hosting provider. So you're not intending, DevPanel isn't a hosting company, and like there isn't a like, hey, just keep this here kind of thing. The notion is, hey, it could be sent over in some way. Or it can be directly hosted using like whoever administers a template could be like, here's my AWS credentials for people to spin up under my hosting or something like that. Is that approximately correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
That is actually right on the
Yeah.
on the
One
spot.
thing that I did want to mention is we're not looking for people to always come to drupalforge.org to
Yeah.
do this. We've created a web component that can be embedded in other places. So my hope is that project maintainers can partner with somebody who's with a vendor who's selling sites through Drupal Forge, embed that widget on their project page and say, if you start your Drupal site from here, you will be supporting this project.
Right. So it's like effectively someone who's maintaining like a commerce recipe flavor of Drupal could embed the one of these little Drupal Forge buttons effectively.
Well,
And that
more like the vendor says, I'm going to split the revenue, some part of the revenue from this from my subscriptions among these different projects that I depend on. And so each one of those projects can embed that widget on their project page and say, hey, support us by starting your Drupal project from here.
Cool. Okay. So that's cool. I'm glad I mostly got that right, and that is an important and sort of interesting nuance. Let me pause for a second, and we want to narrow in on talking about the Drupal CMS demo specifically, I think, but just before we go in a little further, Adam or Pam, so far, does that raise any initial questions or clarification about the structure?
I have one that I spotted in the FAQ list that I would like answered quickly. How is this different from Tugboat? I mean, it's probably in a number of ways, but I want to just hear your answer on that.
The difference is I wouldn't want to ask the Drupal Association to pay for everybody's private site that they're going to spin up through Tugboat. And here we've got a business model that would cover these trials. We're either through referral fees or through splitting the subscriptions.
You're
Okay,
probably
so the
talking,
it's
you're probably talking
technical
technically,
difference.
right? Like, how is it different technically?
Well, I was wondering if I mean, it doesn't sound like there's much of like there's a. I mean, it sounds like there's probably technical differences, but it sounds like the business difference is maybe the more significant factor here.
Yeah, Tugboat and simplytest.me were the inspiration. I would kept asking, oh, and Gitpod, DrupalPod, I kept asking, why can't we turn these into live sites?
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I was going around in, I think 2022, asking all the vendors, can you help me do this? And Salem was the one who said, I can do that.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
let me add to that.
providing the
actually.
pipeline to a live site. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let me add to that. From a technical perspective, you know, and I'm handling the technical side, so I'll talk technically about some of these things. On Tugboat and other things, like you don't get the VS Code with it. You don't get the IDE. So we give you the IDE. You don't get the ability to extend it. We give you the ability to extend your environment.
What do
We
you
give
mean
you
by extend?
Like
if you get
literally the
6,
duration.
yeah, when
Oh,
you get
right,
6
gotcha.
hours, you can add
Yep.
more hours to it. You can go to 12 hours, and when you're running out of those hours, you can add more hours to it, and so on. At the end of those hours, your environment pauses. It does not get deleted, so you can come back and unpause it a few days later, and you can continue working on it. And it's a shared IDE, so you can actually collaborate with other developers. You can invite, if I wanted to, I could invite you guys, and we could see each other coding on the same IDE together, on the cloud IDE. So if I'm stuck, I can invite other people to do that. I can take a URL, I can share it with someone, and then I can connect a VPS that I have that I buy on Linode or DigitalOcean or AWS. I can get my account on Pantheon or Acquia or whatever. I can take my site and then I can push it to that account. And we're hoping that with Drupal CMS, there's our thinking was that it's going to be open to, we're opening this up to a lot of hosting companies that don't currently host Drupal, and this could be a way to push, you know, for the DA to actually have a way to host the dev environments, or for us to offer dev environments in the community, and for then people to actually push it to whatever hosting company they want to. So that was kind of the motivation behind, from a technical perspective, that was the motivation behind it. And that's something that Tim and I had talked about even previously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that for the each one of these templates on DrupalForge would have an owner. So for example, the Drupal CMS template would be owned by Drupal Association, and that owner gets to decide who the featured vendors are for hosting that template.
And things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think, to me, one of the big differences is that having that pipeline to hosting is something that you all have sort of thought through a model for.
Yeah.
Now
And
I know there's still background work to actually do that kind of connection in terms of like I don't think it's currently wired up to push to Acquia, push to Pantheon yet, but the idea
No.
is to have everything needed to be able to do that.
it is wired up to push to Linode and to other VPSs. So if you buy a VPS from anywhere, all we need is an IP address, your username, and a key, SSH key, and we can
Yeah.
push to it. But we
Now-
haven't done the work for others, but we can. But that's pending our conversations.
Right. Yep. So let me go ahead and briefly, I'm just going to keep browsing through here, and hopefully inspiring more questions. But so you have as this example, and now we've talked about these being web components that people could embed where they want. And welcome, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
So we've talked about these being web components. They could be embedded. You do have a distinction here of sort of a for site builders and for developers. But right now, my understanding of that is this is a no registration required. It's a 6-hour thing. There's a brief registration required, but that's what gets you the ability to extend, pause, share, those sorts of things. So functionally, what people can do are not different other than those two sets of differences, if I've got that
Yeah,
right.
and then the site builder thing will actually go away,
Right.
and it's being replaced by the widget, and the developer one is being re-engineered so that this is the other option besides the widget. And then the developer one requires registration, and this is the one that gives you the persistence and gives you the ability to do all the other things we talked about. So
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and push the button
Mhm.
and see what happens here. And I'm sure other
I mean, maybe this is obvious, but like these aren't like calcified product offerings.
Sure.
This is just kind of a range of, possible interfaces, possible features that can be sliced and diced in all sorts of ways.
that
Right.
this is
We got a prototype. We got it to the point where we need to start getting some guidance.
yeah,
if you
I
wanted
would
to
say this is, in the startup world, they call it minimum viable product. That's
yeah.
where we are right now. So that's, we would love to work with you guys to do this. One of the things from a technical perspective, we would even like to have it so that if somebody's developed this and they want to package it to go, you could actually turn it and say they want to get a WebAssembly version of it, and they could just put it loaded in their browser and take it to go. So anyways, this is the working version of the CMS. This is something where actually Darren is looking at some issues where they're working to, I guess, speed this up, because right now this is a little slow, and we can look at the Drupal 11 version of it to see how that compares.
Sure. I mean, we could poke around a little bit, although certainly at least generating the environment, this seemed to happen pretty quickly. And, what it's giving me here is like as you referred to, one link into the actual installer experience or whatever's provided by Drupal CMS. I assume this is just coming out of, uh, you know, a particular point in time on the current Drupal CMS repository.
Yeah, we had to fork it because the
Mhm.
.dev panel directory isn't in the Drupal
I
CMS
see.
repository yet.
But I
Right.
think Darren has created an issues to get the .dev panel directory in there. As
Yeah.
soon as it's in there, we can actually pull the latest version in here and build from that. So
Right. Okay. So I can play around with the installer and those sorts of things. Point is, at this point, I'm in the experience. And I think a factor that's important to us that I know we talk about a lot at the Starshot level internally is sort of who the audience is for, right? And most of the primary audience for Drupal CMS as a concept is not the people who are looking for the IDE, but even just like we said, that site builder audience. So one of the things we may want to be able to do is sort of sub-segment even more so, which you kind of concepted. This is a concept of that sort of segmentation of, the kind of person who just wants to get into the actual product and play with it, and the kind of person who's like, hey, I'm a developer and I want to learn what Drupal's all about, right? Whether that's people coming from WordPress land or just newly
yeah,
interested people in some other way,
and
etc.
I would actually argue that most of the audience for Drupal CMS today are developers.
Well, right
When
now,
the product is GA, then the audience is going to be the hosting companies or the end users that we're targeting. But today, while it's in development, the general
sure, yeah,
audience are the developers, and they would want to have the VS Code and things like that, so that they can poke around and see the internals of it.
right. And so, for example, here it is. This is it showing me the VS Code environment, which is awesome. And then, in the background, I've made some selections on the installer, which is running and things like that. So that's cool. So this is just from we did a 20 minutes into looking at what the kind of basic structure of the product is, sort of roughly what the kind of business model idea is with multiple templates and template owners, with those being embeddable web components, and then what the different kinds of things it provides, direct access to the application versus a VS Code environment, et cetera.
Hey Tim, can I
Yeah.
throw in one thing that might not necessarily be obvious from this perspective? It does cover those use cases that you talked about, but
Mhm.
one of sort of the possibilities that's opened up by having a hosted agnostic environment in there is that all of the world's hosts, thousands of individual companies with individual markets and individual reach, if we're able to present the basic product of, okay, here's a configurable CMS that can be, customized with a couple of recipes thrown at it and some basic configuration. So suddenly you're not talking about like one or five, you're talking about thousands and thousands of different, landing pages that aren't even aware of each other, that are they're, a click away from somebody firing up a Drupal CMS site.
Right. This is I'm interpreting your vision as something that did still exist more so during the 7 era, for example, which was the idea that all of these different hosting providers do have a click in their hosting installer that is Drupal that actually works. That's enough to do it and doesn't break because whoops, we don't know how to get you to Composer or whatever,
Except they don't
Cool.
work. Like this would be a lot more reliable than those all were.
Well, sure, yeah. And it's based, this is based on a unified, the person who designed the things that the template owner kind of control, which is an interesting variation on that model too. So, okay, I'm going to stop talking there, and I think turn to again to Pam and Adam to let them react, ask questions, have me click through things, whatever the case may be. Now that I think that's the sort of gist of, the introductory gist to Drupal Forge, where it is now and what it can do.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it up front that I don't like the thing is like from my job on Drupal CMS is to mostly just make sure technical things are good and that we're not screwing up our dependencies. So I don't have technical objections to this.
Yeah.
Basically, I can't see any that I would object to at all. I'm a little bit wondering about the slowness in the installer because it should be acceptable in like MySQL, but whatever. We'll deal. That is you are correct that we're kind of trying to unfuck that. But in any event, yeah, I think that mostly this is, the only thing for me is like we're definitely aiming at marketers with this. And so, I do like the idea that if somebody spins up one of these, they can go to the site or they can go to VS Code if they want to. And it's very, very clear because yeah, I don't think developers should be considered. I mean, I understand that right now it's only usable by developers, but they should never be considered the target audience or the primary audience for this project. But this is mostly Pam's stuff now, so I will I will shut up and let her speak.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about two different things. One is a place for contributors to contribute, and one is the trial experience that we're looking to create for the evaluators, right? They're basically, I think, two completely different things, and I don't know that we would want to conflate them. Like, I even think having that decision point is maybe off-putting for the person that's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What the hell is a cloud IDE? I'm not sure. Like, I don't know the answer, but like that's my initial thinking that like the evaluators, like the trial experience that we envision, probably we wouldn't want that step. But
my guess is that could totally be accommodated by
yeah. No, I'm
this
just saying
model.
I
Yeah.
think I think rather than treating them as just like two different stages, it's actually ongoing two completely different use cases, which both, I can see that both of them could be solved by this. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a concern. It's just more of a clarification.
I was proposing that that's 2 out of 10,000 possible use cases. Like I'm envisioning, people that understand their content, real estate developers in Belgium who, somebody gets together and puts together, enough recipes, a little theme, throws it up, and they're told, here, go here to get your site. And, they wouldn't have to even know that it's Drupal anything, although we could try to brand it while we're there. But for to accomplish their purposes, they just want, a real estate site for their, French speaking audience, or whatever it is.
Let me, if I can interject here for a second.
And I
We've
see that
designed
Michael-
the widget in a way so it's there's like feature toggles in there, and one of the toggles is we can include or exclude the cloud dev environment, and if we exclude that, it doesn't show up on the widget. We can actually white label the widget as well, so that when you spin up sites on it, it spins it up under the URL of the site hosting the widget. So it doesn't have to say Drupal Forge or anything like that. So that gives people a lot of flexibility if they just want to just demo their stuff without promoting Drupal Forge or without getting Drupal Forge involved. So those type of things are built in and are working now. So
Yeah, that's cool.
Well,
Cool.
I
So,
think the other part of it. Hi.
yeah.
First of all, sorry I'm late, and if
Okay.
I might have to leave early, so sorry about that as well. I'm super reliable though. No, so one thing, kind of just I was going to mention something about the widget as well. I think the widget is kind of a big deal because that can be embedded directly on Drupal.org, and as Slim said, that can be customized for whatever audience that you want to target on a particular page. So all of this stuff about the cloud ID and all that stuff, that doesn't have to be anywhere near the widget if you're putting the widget on a page for real estate developers in Belgium who just want to give it a test drive. So that's one of the kind of the nice things about Drupal Forge is the fact that it has this widget that is customizable, and you can put it directly on Drupal.org if you want. And so that I understand exactly what Adam and Pamela are saying about you don't want it's not even I look at it almost like you don't want to scare anyone off, or you don't want to overwhelm folks. You just want to give them an easy way to give it a test drive in the simplest, fastest way. And I think the widget goes a long way towards that. Well, maybe not the speed yet, but
I mean, the
There are
speed
things we-
in the UI, like obviously when this thing gets, into production, you want to go and cut out all the distracting things that are there and leave the heart and soul of it.
Yeah, the slowness is from that progress bar with the batch jobs, however many hundreds of batch jobs there are.
Well, to give
operations are.
you give you an example of speed, I'd like you to actually launch the Drupal 11 site here on Express Launch, so you can actually see how fast that launches.
Yeah.
And we would like to get, so there you go. It launches within 3 seconds.
And it's actually,
So we would like to get the experience of Drupal CMS to be similar to that.
But this
We're
is something
aiming for that.
I don't know who I mentioned. I think maybe Darren or Slim or both. But for Drupal CMS, I think seeing the installer is important.
Right.
So you're always gonna. I mean, I don't know.
there's
Well, the thing is that it's actually not, it's the installer now, but it's all it's doing is showing you recipes, which has nothing to do with the actual install. So we've been talking about trying to pull that out anyway. So instead of calling that the installer, that's like the onboarding, and you can pre-install because you're not asking the user to do anything that requires installation.
Right.
So that's a blocker that isn't necessarily gonna be there.
Yeah, I was going to say change the installer to a configurator, so instead of installing it, you're configuring it, and configuring it can be in seconds.
Yeah, but Salim, I don't know, did you mention before I got on the call that, these sites, they're kind of pre-spun up and held in a queue until someone actually requests them. So it's not like anytime someone uses the widget, they hit a button and then they're waiting for the whole thing to spin up.
They're in a pause state. So we're not using up all the resources and things like that. So we're just quickly unpausing them and handing it out.
They're queued up in advance. That's the key.
Right.
Yeah. Some number of them are available in a pause state. You maintain a minimum amount. You unpause them on request with the widget. That makes sense. Okay, so this is cool. And I think like, here's the thing, technical issues such as, you know, speed of installer and how that stuff works, that's also being worked on just on Drupal CMS as a product side, as Adam mentioned, and like solvable kind of problem. It sounds like user experience sort of decisions about what's the user journey like for if that widget were to be embedded on Drupal.org and for a particular marketing audience, we wanted to hide the IDE stuff. It seems like we could do that. And then, you know, so that's in, you know, a solvable problem, a little bit of work to figure out kind of category. Similarly, right, like you all have planned for this concept of having, you know, whoever's the template owner of this, if it's the DA, Drupal CMS template or whatever it is, or the Starshot leadership team CMS template, whatever, being able to define what, I don't know if I can easily see, is that, I know you have it in your video library. Is there a dashboard page here if I were the person who wanted to go ahead and say I want to move it to my VPS? Is
Not
that
yet.
something? Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, there isn't on this. We can add it to the. Yeah, there's different options to it. I can show it to you on mine.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that, but I think maybe I'll just look at this screen, this thumbnail of this video really quickly, which is,
Oh,
you know,
you're talking about the dev panel dashboard. Yeah, yes, that exists. Yeah.
so that exists, but part of what I'm thinking is, right, again, like there's this marketer version of the audience, right, who when they click, so I'm just imagining what I'm looking at here is, hey, there's a dashboard somewhere that someone can eventually get to, and they can click VPS hosting or potentially eventually whatever the other partner hosts might be. And, you know, in some cases, if it's a sort of roll your own, they need to get Linode credentials, they need to do whatever. But if it's our marketer audience, ideally that's a, you know, we're not making them figure that out. We have enough of a relationship with whoever the host is that that's like a one-click kind of API driven, hey, we'll send it over. And that would all be some kind of panel accessible somewhere, whether there's a link through that.
It could probably be in the widget.
Or it could be in the widget. Yes, that's true. It could be you go back to the widget and you find here, like choose my hosting options or whatever, or launch this on a host or something. And then that takes you into this menu of hosting provider options.
Right.
Would be that part of the vision, I think is the idea.
And as a start, we could support any provider that can work with DDEV, you know, so.
Yeah, we've been talking to hosting providers on a totally separate basis, and several of them support things like the Drush site archive format and things like that. So that might be a later conversation. Again, that's getting into like solvable technical problems, but not necessarily questions. I just wanted to briefly cover it. So, and now I do want to again continue to give space for questions though. So again, Pam, any more initial thoughts or things you would like to see as you're comparing this to other options along with myself and other Starshot people?
No, I mean, I think the differences, for example, with Tugboat are pretty clear. I mean, I think the key difference is that like Tugboat's not intended to be start your site. It's intended to be throwaway. So that's an important distinction here, is that this is starting from a totally different place. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. Minor things as well. We've talked about some user experience stuff, and like one of the things that came up in a conversation with Dries, for example, was at what point would we want to do something like a lead capture, for example? So for example, the widget could be behind a Drupal.org hosted lead form. That's like, hey, we want to learn about you, perhaps. Or it could be part of the thing because I know you have a version of this that has a registration. So maybe that's something we should explore further as well at some point and understand how that would work. But anyway, those are just additional thoughts that I'm having.
Yeah, with the new Drupal sign-in experience, I'd like to, as soon as it's ready to be used as a single sign-on option I'd like to try to integrate that with DrupalForge.
Oh, so that someone could just say, if you're logged into Drupal.org, that's going to grab your info. Yeah.
Like bakery integration? Do you still use that?
We can, and we've done
bakery. Wow, that's a blast from.
I go way back.
I'm afraid until very recently, yes, we did still use that.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, before the new SSO experience that deployed to Drupal.org, that was all bakery.
So
Wow.
just so you know, we've actually done integrations with, like we have experience doing integration with LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple, AWS, Amazon, all those things. So they can
SSO
just
providers.
do
Yeah.
one-click login with any of those, and you can capture all their information through that,
Okay.
through that one-click login. So that's something that's available, and you could put that, you know, like if you think of it as a paywall, you know, that lead wall at any point, like let them try it first, and if they want to do more, you capture their information and give them more access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that ability to decide where in the process it happens, I think is probably important. Yeah.
And you talked about lead gen things. You know, I'll toss back on my, you know, thought before or about how this is applicable to, you know, all sorts of independent hosting providers. And if you imagine all them hungrily looking for clients, they'll do your work for you. They'll go out and, you know, send to their lists and, you know, meet to their conference and put on their social networks this possibility that, you know,
Yeah. I do kind of like the idea that the only place to find this is not just on Drupal.org, that people can begin promoting it on their own channels too. Like that's an interesting
Mm.
concept for the extension of the reach of the experience. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's worth thinking about, Luke. Although I will say that in the narrowly focused blinders on getting to MVP, as Salim put it before, um, we're thinking about the DDoS experience specifically at the moment. But
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, we can do 10,000, but we're gonna do two first, or one first,
Yeah,
right?
right. I'm curious if
First
you
campaign.
know, and I'm happy to be interrupted, but so okay, 501(c)(3) pending. So you're currently working on finishing the incorporation stuff. Is that the kind of idea for the nonprofit model?
Oh no, it's further along than that.
I'll let Salem answer that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's we've applied for it, and as you know, it takes time for them to
No kidding.
process it and uh, and approve it. It's set up under we've set it up under the Ops Association. So the nonprofit is actually called Ops Association, and this is a product. This is an offering of the Ops Association. So there can be other offerings under the Ops Association. We actually have a lawyer on our board, nonprofit board, and he read through all the different legalese of, you know, how to use the Drupal trademark and things like that.
Mhm.
And he preferred that we did not use the trademark in the name of our
Of the
nonprofit
nonprofit. That
itself.
totally makes sense. Yeah.
And he said we can make it name of our product, but not use it name of our nonprofit. So
No, that's fine. I'm just curious about the structure. And you know, one of the things that I think has been so far sort of very generous in the way that you're talking about this is you're already running these, and I know they're not necessarily hugely expensive, but you're already running a queue of paused instances that are ready for people to spin up and things like that. And hypothetically, this gets a lot of traffic, let's say. And you know, they're up for 6 hours or something, but I'm sure that kind of comes at a cost. So how do you see the nonprofit organization being funded in an ongoing way? Or what would need to exist to make that a virtuous relationship to kind of sustain?
we're open to suggestions.
We have two ideas so far. Well, no, I should say three. Well, the first is referral fees from vendors and or a share. They might they could share some part of their subscription with Drupal Forge.
Mhm.
And the second is for the vendors to host the trials on their own hosting so that it doesn't cost us.
Right. Okay. Right. So that basically they're putting in the back end some
Yeah.
their own credentials to host it in their own cloud. But running the same stuff.
On the technical side, what's really interesting is that we are hosting everything on our cluster today. But for example, if you have a template or something that you want to offer on Drupal Forge, we can just spin up our cluster on your account.
And is that
and
by your account? Do we mean your AWS?
DigitalOcean account?
DigitalOcean. Okay, that's right.
Or Linode account or whatever account, right? Because all we're doing is we're running a Kubernetes cluster there, and we're just running all your sites on your account, and we're not paying for it. You're paying for it. So if you want, like, whatever demos are being spun up are on your account because it's your template, and you're just paying for your template. So that's the other interesting portion of it. And then the other thing that we floated by is that, if somebody's not using their development site for 7 days, for example, because right now we're pausing them, but we're not deleting them.
Right.
So if they haven't used it for 7 days, for example, maybe we delete them.
Yeah.
Unless they buy a development plan for like $10 a month or something like that, and then that way they can get 10 sites or something like that per month, dev sites that they can run forever, and we're not deleting them. They're still pausing, but they're not getting deleted.
Right. And that, again, speaking about our two different audiences, we would have to hope that the folks who would be interested in that kind of funded developer option would be enough to supplement all of the marketer style audience to cover the costs of all their sites, right? Like that would be a concern. But what I'm hearing is there's flexibility and you all are open to a proposal on that.
Right. The other thing is, we're sending out emails, and the emails can have like, hey, check out our partners, and the partners can be, tag 1, or they can be, phase 2, or whatever it is, right? So you can have advertisements there, you can have this. For each of these, for example, under CVCRM, there is space there to say, here are the companies that, can support CVCRM or something like that, or they can advertise there. We haven't figured out a way to actually do that.
Okay.
And
that's good to know, because the reason we're having this call is to understand, right? We need to understand scalability, like how it works technically, what the underlying revenue model is for sustainability, what the user experience is like. So I think that's the whole point of this, and why we're recording it as well, so that we can kind of go back and refer to this and understand what we would think is a gap if we wanted to move forward with it.
And honestly,
I want to throw in actually, like, that we have the longer term sustainable, financial stability models. But in the interim, even though we haven't really looked for it, we've actually had people come out of the woodworks offering to sponsor it with kind of without even asking. So it seems to resonate with the Drupal community as this is a good thing worth supporting.
Cool.
And the other thing I have to tell you is, one of the things we tell people is that it's in our charter, we have it built in that, some of the portion of the revenue will actually go back to the DA, because this is, portion of the revenue should go back to the developers who are doing the templates. Portion of the revenue should go back to the DA. There should be, because the nonprofit isn't keeping any money. We're all volunteers. We're not making any, or we can't keep any money out of this as board members. So we have to like take the money and distribute it at the end of the year, or do something with it. So some of it will roll over, but some of it, the rest of the money will go out. And the DA seems to be the natural choice for like as support for it.
Sure. So I'm going to suggest, we don't have a huge amount of time remaining, that I will go around by name for folks who are still, for everyone on the call, and just see if anyone has a final sort of question or comment. I'm going to jump back to, I'll jump back to Adam first real quick. I know you're mostly listening in, Adam, but if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just trying to handle about 2 things at once here.
Of course.
So I mean,
any final thought, question, or comment just in the last time we have?
So I mean, generally speaking, I like this a lot. I like what I see. And there's a number of reasons for that. Overall, to me, this feels like kind of the cleanest way to both have a trial and then have a trial that you can basically just say like, oh, actually, I want to push this to a real production server now. And this seems like a really clean flow for that. And that's something that's sort of a problem we've been trying to solve. And, we've got it. We keep improving it, but this looks quite good to me. So I generally like this. And I feel pretty good about it. I think the decision, though, is not technical. It's really product and governance.
Understood. Yeah.
Is what it's.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. Pam, last question.
No, I don't have any questions. I mean, I pretty much agree with Adam. I think this is very well aligned with what we're looking to do. It's just a question to take back to the leadership team, I guess, Tim, and have a few chats. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So then
we want to hear
Thank
what
you.
and get some direction. So we'd love to get the feedback.
let me go quickly through each of y'all as well. So I'm going to go to Mike because I feel like Mike might have to disappear again, but
No, I'm good now. I'm actually now I can stay as long as you want now. Yeah, so my role in all this has been, just talking to Salim and Darren and giving them my opinions and test driving things and stuff like that. And so I don't really have any questions, but the one thing I can say is that they really want to make this work.
Yeah.
Like they have been super responsive to everything, like all of my comments and questions and, ideas. And I don't see that, changing or waning any less for if the Drupal Association or the community comes back and says, this is great, but can it do this as well? And so I want to just kind of vouch for the fact that they are in this for the right reasons and looking to make this a big win for Drupal.
That's a nice endorsement. Awesome. Luke, how about you? Final comment or question?
All right, well, I'll just throw out and Pam, that this is maybe of interest to you. I've been a Scrum business analyst on a number of things, and I know that if we're going to get to MVP, and like we kind of just guessed at what MVP might mean, but if it would help to sort of focus what you want, I could write up some user stories for you, and you could mark them up, and let me know if those are anywhere in the neighborhood, and maybe spark some ideas as to other things. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
cool. I mean, like I said, we've been having conversations about this, but only in the last 3 days did WASM disappear as an option. So we're sort of trying to refocus things. So we definitely just need to have a few chats, but that could be a good approach. But I'd say probably we should give you some first, probably.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then,
sure.
yeah.
I was offering to help you get past like blank page.
Thank you. Thank you.
Get
Oh no,
something
the
to be
problem is not
dissatisfied with that you can improve on.
the problem is not blank page at this point. The problem is too many thoughts.
Fair enough.
Cool.
So Luke is offering himself up to
On the sacrificial
participate in your
altar
meetings.
yeah. Okay, cool. Let me go, Darren.
I just want to thank Adam and Pamela for joining us. And I know I specifically asked Tim to invite Pamela because I had gotten that comment from you a few days ago saying that was the first you were hearing about Drupal Forge.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, I didn't know who to talk to, so
No, it's I do definitely appreciate all of your time too, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank Tim for getting us together.
Great. Sal, any last comments from you or questions?
First of all, Tim, thank you for putting this together. Mike, thank you for attending. I know you were in the middle of some stuff. I know our team is looking for feedback, and we want to make this work. So whatever you guys need, let us know, and we'll make it happen. So however you want it to work, however you want it to, behave, however you want to do the integrations, let us know, and we'll bend backwards to make it happen. So
that is a very generous
Yes.
and dangerous statement. Dangerous.
Yeah.
No, we really want to make this happen. I think this is a really good tool. We've gotten really good feedback from folks. It's been, people are starting to use it in their training sessions for doing demos. People are looking to put their distros and recipes they're developing on this platform.
We
So
were demoing Drupal CMS and Backdrop at BadCamp just 2 weeks ago, and so we had customers jumping in.
Yeah. And I got to say, Salem has really been a big supporter. He's made at least 2 of his employees put them at our disposal for this project. So
Yeah, that's very generous. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. I super appreciate this. I super appreciate you all providing this context and validating my technical overview to my best understanding and all of those sorts of things, and like getting some of the right people in the room. So I think
I
we
do have one question, actually.
Oh, sure.
What are the next steps? And,
So,
what's the timeline? What's like the timeline after this meeting?
You're just trying to make my head explode, right? No. Next steps, we're talking to other folks. We're going to talk to Tugboat folks. We're going to talk to hosters. We're talking to various sorts of people in full transparency and just seeing what their pitches are, how strong their level of interest is, what their versions of solving these same sorts of problems are, and how they align to what the strategic direction might be. So we're still doing all of that. Y'all have wound up on the front of this list. So we're working with you all first here. There's a few more of these to do. So I think there's not very many people in this space, right? So it's not like there's a long list to go through. I think the goal is within a couple of weeks for the Starshot leadership team to have official decisions. I don't know that they have an exact deadline. So I don't know if I can give you by this date where we know we're supposed to have a decision, but we do want to have something for January 15th, even if it's not the marketer version yet, because Experience Builder won't be ready yet, things like that. But the point is, we know we want to put something together. And so right now we are in there's been a little bit, perhaps too much cruise control with the WASM stuff going along, and now we're in a little bit more of a scramble. And it's great to be in a place where we're talking to folks who have been diligently trying to come up with an alternative anyway, and so it's a lot further along perhaps than it would be if we were starting from zero, for sure. So yeah, I mean, next steps are we talk to some other orgs, we regroup as a leadership team, and then we come back and say, hey, either we've picked this direction or we really want this from you that's not there yet, or something, right? We'd kind of come back with here's where we landed, or here's what else we need to make a final decision.
What happened to WASM? This is the first I've heard that it's not in play anymore. So what happened to it?
Long story short, the guy who knows how to do it, which is Matt Gleiman, he does not have the time or bandwidth or proper allocation from work to handle it anymore. He's literally the only guy who knows how it actually works. And also it has severe performance problems that are not easy to resolve. There have been compatibility issues, and it doesn't
work in Safari at all. It doesn't work in Safari, and there's no roadmap to get it to work in Safari at this point. So
iOS,
I had it working in Safari in the early days.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't. The problem is there's too many files in Drupal, and Safari flips the hell out when you try to throw this many files.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, just my personal opinion, but from the end user benefit of a marketer, they don't give a shit if it's WASM or not. I don't think. They want one. I think they want one click. It's like, oh, cool, it ran on a browser, or oh, cool, it ran on a host. They're not going to care. So there's just not a lot of benefit to this complexity from an end user perspective, in my opinion. That is not an official position. Just my position.
Yeah.
But yes, it's no.
So in other words, this is actually kind of an example of non-traumatic bus factor, right? There was a lot riding on something with only a single person's expertise, right? And that's always a little bit dangerous. So
yeah.
Well, I thought WASM was great for the potential to be able to run Drupal offline. So I'm still interested in it.
Yeah, it still has a lot of potential, but it just wasn't feasible for us to be relying on it as this really key piece of the puzzle.
I think it wasn't
sustainable.
The point is, it's no longer the default assumption.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've followed Matt around at DrupalCon Portland a little bit, and he throws out an amazing idea like every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's true. No,
Unfortunately,
I'm not-
they need that skill on Experience Builder right now, so he's fully allocated to that, and
Mhm.
just didn't have the time.
Right.
So we're happy to have him on Experience Builder. That's totally fine. We can solve this
I
another
didn't know
way.
he went to Experience Builder, but I'm really glad to hear it because yeah, Matt gets shit done faster than anybody I've ever seen. It's just like, oh my God, you did that in an afternoon? What sorcery, is this?
Cool.
I just want to, one last thing I want to point out is, Dev Panel, which is the technology behind Drupal Forge, is, was based after cPanel. Even the name is based after cPanel. We will never do hosting, so hosting is not in our DNA. So it's meant to be a tool to empower other people to do hosting. With Drupal Forge, the whole idea is to have an API where other hosters can just plug into this environment and then just pick up dev environments from there and do hosting from there. So that's on our roadmap, and we're going to be doing that regardless. We would rather be doing that with the DA than doing it just by ourselves. So that's why I think this is really important, because we've got something that actually works. It's very performant. People like it, and I think this is a good time to start doing this together, because we've talked about this before as well.
Yeah.
Plus, we're a nonprofit. Portion of our money is going to be going towards you anyways. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks very much again, everyone. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the time zones and the availability scramble and everything that has to happen to make this happen. And we'll share recording stuff with other folks who need to hear it and keep going from there. And I'm happy. Obviously, y'all can find each other on Drupal Slack. I'm also happy to act as a kind of coordinator for things that people need. So feel free to follow up with me, and we'll try and be in touch soon.
sounds good.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
Joe.